Good. Hello, this is Roland Kidwell. I'm the director of the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship and the Department Chair of Management Programs in the College of Business. I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar about the Florida Atlantic University Business Plan Competition. I'm joined here with a couple of winners of our past competitions, as well as the Assistant Director of the Adams Center, Kevin Cox. What I'd like to do is to spend this time with you to talk a little bit about the business plan competition, a little bit about our FAU boot camp, some of the other activities we engage in at the Adams Center, but mainly to hear from past winners of the business plan competition who are here to kind of maybe share some secrets with potential applicants, potential entries. Our business plan competition is starting up toward the end of the fall semester, and it's a good time now to get ready and a good time to get into our boot camp, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on. If you have a business idea and you want to turn that into an actual business model and test it out and then come on into the business plan competition, or it may be renamed as the business pitch competition. We will let you know about that. Whatever it is, it's the BPC. So let's go around and introduce our panel today. Let's start with Kevin Cox here. And Kevin, why don't you go ahead and say a few words and welcome.
Sure. I'm glad to be here. I am, as Roland said, the Assistant Director of the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship, and I also manage our Veterans Entrepreneurship Program and even sometimes moonlight doing some educational activities out at our New Venture Accelerator Tech Runway.
Great. Okay, we're also joined by Viktor Nurov of Airlogs, and Airlogs finished in second place in the 2020 business plan competition, the first time in the history of the business plan competition that we did it all virtual. Pitch scrub, as well as semifinalist competition and finalists. So Viktor's quite used to pitching in a WebEx meeting, but let's hear from Viktor. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Viktor, and about your company.
So I am originally from Ukraine. I have graduated from FAU class of 2020 with major in finance and minor in economics. And I've been employed in aerospace where I have met one of my co-founders. And by noticing the inefficiencies that exist within the industry, especially with compliance documentation, we decided that it is time to change that and approach it from a data-driven decision perspective and also automation perspective. And we decided to start Airlogs. And as of today, we're testing with our launch customers, and we're looking forward to see how the testing results turn out to be and continue working on it.
Great. Well, we'll walk through the process of how you started that idea and brought it forward and where the company is today here in just a minute. I'd like to introduce our other panelist, David Gorski. And David was the business plan competition first place winner in 2019, when we actually had a competition with 80 or 90 people in the room. I'm remembering the good old days when we actually met in real life. But anyway, David, tell us a little bit about your company and yourself and where you are right now with the company is called Life Metrics.
So thank you so much for having me. Life Metrics is a mobile app that keeps track of everything in your life in the easiest possible way that we've discovered, and that's just a simple questionnaire. So we use AI and machine learning to curate questions so that it asks you the most interesting and informative questions to help you build self-awareness. And then we analyze this data to provide you actionable insights so you can kind of fine-tune your life and really holistically look for a better self.
Cool. What tell us of Viktor? Let's go back to David first. Tell us about the impact that the business plan competition had on your company, and what's been the result of you winning the business plan competition a couple of years ago now, or almost 2 years ago.
So just to take even a step back before that, Life Metrics really started as a graduate project or a senior project in my last year of college. I took a social entrepreneurship course, and this crazy idea for Life Metrics came out of it. I ended up winning a scholarship for that at the Honors College. And then that kind of gave some validation to this whole idea and what I was doing. And so I spent a lot of time to refine the business plan and entered it into the BPC. And winning BPC was really a much bigger validation that, I'm really onto something here. So much so that I ended up deferring my graduate program for a year to just work on life metrics full time for the past year.
Okay. And you've been out of Tech Runway. I think we'll talk a little bit more about that. And Victor, I think, as well. Victor, tell us about the impact the business plan competition had on your company.
One of the interesting things that I would definitely want to say is that we've heard of this program when we initially started, but we actually participated almost a year later. For the reason being that, we wanted to make our business plan look good and to know what we are talking about. And it brought a lot of valuable experience in terms of actually writing a document that would be guiding your company through some strategic path. It develop a comprehensive sense of what you want your business to be. And it also develops some pitching skills. As you have mentioned, maybe there will be a rename.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. But definitely, even if it doesn't work at the end of the day, it really develops business skills writing, which is very important in almost any job you do.
Cool. Now, Kevin, you have worked with many finalists in the business plan competition and entries in the business plan competition over the years. The Adams Center has been around since 2001, sponsored by, funded by FAU alum entrepreneur Scott Adams. And that's been able to be the starting force for us to move forward with a business plan competition over the years. But tell us, Kevin, a little bit about your experience with some of the entries, some of the mentoring that you do, and some of the things that you see and what might make a successful business plan entry, competition winner, finalist, what have you.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting kind of question, right? I've seen so many different students and so many different ventures over the years come through the Adams Center that it's really just been a really wide range and a variety. It's almost difficult, if not impossible, to predict what types of business ventures or entrepreneurs are going to be those that are inevitably successful. There's a lot of stories, and you put it really nicely, where the Adams Center represents that earliest stage. It's still a stage for exploration. We've even built that ecosystem out a little bit more. We have now the WAVE program, where you can really just do some basic fundamental research to try to define an idea, see if there's anything there. Then you come on over to the Adams Center. The boot camp is a great opportunity to learn some of the specifics that you'll need in order to compete successfully. And then that process, engaging in the mentorship and all the processes and receiving all the feedback, it's just as important as the prize money. I know seed funding, oftentimes from the entrepreneur's perspective, seems like the essential be all end all, but I think what's overlooked, and maybe our panelists can shed some light onto that, is the resources aside from seed funding, right? All of that feedback from subject matter area experts and experienced entrepreneurs is really invaluable and shouldn't be overlooked. I've seen so many businesses that maybe they were a finalist or even just a semi-finalist, or they got second place, like Adam Roth at Honor Lock. And then they built these massively successful companies, right? So they do evolve and change over time, and that's okay. So really, anybody who's got an idea or a genuine interest in entrepreneurship, the Adams Center, the boot camp, the business plan competition, that's for them. Even if it's not fully fledged out and all the, opportunities identified and written up in a plan, we don't need people that have all that done yet. We'll help them get there.
Yep. You come into this with a lot of questions and you don't have all the answers. Because if you didn't have all the answers, you may run into a problem.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, and I know Victor went through this too. Tell us a little bit about, Kevin, about the boot camp. What's involved there? And we are running boot camps here in the fall, and we'll probably be able to put some information up on the screen about that. We're going to have one in Boca, one in Jupiter. They'll both be virtual, but that's going to be the main. There's a book you can get with the boot camp. The authors' names are quite familiar to you. There's the boot camp. Okay, so we see Boca and Jupiter this fall. There's some of the information. But Kevin, the basics of it. What goes on in the boot camp? What do you do? You've been an instructor in this for a long time. What do you do in the boot camp? And Victor, follow up with what happened to you in the boot camp.
Sure. So the boot camp is a very, very unique educational experience, I'd say so. It's much different than any of our traditional classes around FAU. And it's purposely designed that way by its very nature, right? Because it's open to staff and faculty, but also the broader community in Boca Raton and beyond. Right now we're rolling out Jupiter. So it's wide open, right? So we have inventors, we have experienced entrepreneurs, we have young students, we have students from across all different majors, right? If you're in some of the more traditionally scientific colleges or divisions at the university, it's unlikely that you're going to have many classes on business or particularly entrepreneurship. So we've specifically designed it to not be a 4-credit class, right? You don't get traditional credits for it. You get a certificate, which is not the important part of it, but you do get one if you're interested in that. It's 8 weeks. It's not 4 credit. It's 3 hours per week. It's in the evenings. And that's designed so it can accommodate those people with those schedules. Maybe they're working, maybe they have a full course load, but they can come into the boot camp. And it's designed in a manner such that it's really for everybody. Anybody who has an idea, wants to learn the basics about entrepreneurship, or like Victor, go in farther and really delve in. So there's a wide variety of people always in the boot camp. It's always very diverse, but one thing that everybody has in common is this entrepreneurial bug. So that generates some excitement, some really great networking opportunities, again, because of the diversity in the group. There's different world experience, life experience, background, and all that kind of stuff right there in one place. It's only 8 weeks. It's only 24 hours total. So it's pretty easy to fit in. And I also like to say it's a la carte, you know? I'll assign you plenty of things to do, but there's no grades. You can take it or leave it. You can listen to me. You can do some trial and error. Maybe 1 week you get behind, a week later you get ahead. You can approach the boot camp however you like. It's very flexible. So really, if you have any interest at all, it's a great place to start. And of course, now it comes along with our brand new workbook, the new Venture Launchpad, which everybody who enrolls in the boot camp gets a nice, fresh, free copy of. Viktor, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience going through the boot camp?
Not to also undermine David here. David was in the class with me as well this last year, right? So David can answer some questions as well. I would definitely say that Kevin's approach in general is great. I like the teaching method that he utilizes. It's reinforcement, like a positive reinforcement, and just, you know, going out and exploring what's out there. And it really is, because we are participating at FAU Tech Runway in I-Core program, and this is everything that Kevin was talking about. You need to go out, you need to talk to your potential customers, you need to figure out what their needs are. And it really did help. For example, us, we scrapped a lot of things and we narrowed down our focus. You know, it is easier for us on the workload, and we would be able to provide instantaneous value to our customers. Kevin's also been sharing his just, you know, personal experiences and showing, for example, some useful things like, you know, what to do, like what types of legal paperwork to get. What are some competitions that are available? What is cap table? How to calculate everything? So it was a really great overview, especially for anybody who wants to jumpstart their business process or even just learn, because it's important as well.
Now, David, when you were coming up at the Honors College, there wasn't a boot camp in Jupiter. but you had some access to some mentors up there, maybe not through the Adams Center, but some people who were perhaps experienced entrepreneurs who gave you some advice. Could you talk a little bit about the impact that that had?
Sure. So at the Honors College, as part of that scholarship from that social entrepreneurship class, I got to work with two really great mentors, as well as the professors that taught that course. And I would honestly credit that with winning the business plan competition, because without their guidance, my business plan and pitching abilities would not be very good at all. And so really that mentorship and that just kind of constant guidance and refinement, just being able to go up to someone and say, hey, this is what my pitch is like, do it in front of them and just get feedback and just iterate and iterate and iterate. That's really that's just the best way to get from an idea to an implementation. And I'd just like to add on to what Victor was saying as well. I was part of the entrepreneurship boot camp. I maybe did it a little bit backwards because I did it after I had won the business plan competition. But I still found it really valuable. Just I can definitely attest to what Kevin was saying. I come from a physics background. That was my undergraduate major. I didn't take a single business class. I had basically no experience with entrepreneurship before I started this venture. So just going through all of the basics from a really the ground level, like, hey, this is what a cap table is. This is what it's supposed to look like. It is just it was really valuable, definitely.
And you make a good point there, David, in terms of business students versus non-business students. We have a lot of people who are in the boot camp and in the business plan competition who are very successful, and they may not be business students. They may come to us from engineering, the sciences, all over campus. Kevin, do you have and they may not be able to fit a regular traditional entrepreneurship class in their program. Kevin, do you have a sense of how many students who come into the boot camp and enter the business plan competition are not from the College of Business? It's a fair number, isn't it?
In fact, most of the students who are traditional FAU students are not in the College of Business or not yet in the College of Business, right? They may be sort of pre-business, not quite ready to get into some of those more advanced entrepreneurship, but they just can't wait, right? They want to go ahead and start a business, maybe their freshman, their sophomore year. So as our business students, particularly those entrepreneurship majors, they'll get a lot of that content over the years and they'll have to perform on it, right? They'll get judged and taught in regular classes. Whereas, we know there's a lot of really, really intriguing technologies and research developments across the university. And many of these things may be commercializable. And the boot camp is a great opportunity to begin to determine if they are commercializable, and then on top of that, what that might look like. And that's where we jump in to start building business models. And it's a lot of fun.
And there's a lot of interaction with experienced entrepreneurs in the boot camp and through the Entrepreneur in Residence Mentor Program. Each person who's a semifinalist in the business plan competition, the BPC, has access to the mentoring, but anybody can come up and schedule a meeting with a mentor here in the Adams Center. And there's a way to do that going on the Adams Center website and making a request. And you can come up and you can basically run your idea by someone who has some experience in this area. They may basically send you off and tell you to come back after you've investigated it a little bit and got some more information, and hopefully you will come back. But the idea is feedback is pretty essential to this entire process, and feedback and passion on the part of the entrepreneur to be willing to go into different directions and to explore new things and potentially new opportunities to be able to pivot or to tweak their idea to develop it as they come into contact with customers and find out what really is delivering value to a customer and who that customer might be. And that may be very different from their original idea of who they were going to be selling it to and even what they were making or providing as a service. So one of the things that is interesting, I think, to me, is how we have set up this ecosystem in at FAU and in the Boca area, Palm Beach County, Broward, where we have a lot of access to a lot of different resources. And Kevin, I think you'd be a great person to kind of walk us through starting back. I mean, we could go back into high school when there were programs that run through the Chamber of Commerce or entrepreneurship competitions. But when we get to FAU, we're trying to do more with high schools, in fact. When we get to FAU, the first program is the WAVE program that you mentioned. So could you kind of walk us through from WAVE to Adams, to Tech Runway, and beyond? How about doing that for us?
Yeah, I'd love to, because it can be a little bit confusing for those that might be a little bit newer to the ecosystem, but I'll give it a shot, and it's pretty easy to navigate once you jump in. As Roland mentioned, the WAVE program is designed primarily for scientific exploration. It may or may not be commercializable. You can get up to a $500 grant just to research something, just to look into it, do an investigation, do a research project, and determine if there's something there. Whatever you're passionate about, you're interested in, that's a great place to start. That's open to all students from any major, really from anywhere. Assuming that goes well, maybe you perform well, maybe you even get an award for your progress in that program, a next stop on the ecosystem that's a great opportunity is that boot camp that we've already talked about a fair amount, so I won't go into too much detail, but that's where you can really take the technology or the core innovation and move it beyond that, develop a full-fledged and validated business model. Now you're in a great position to accumulate some of those other resources we mentioned. So you got WAVE, you got boot camp, and then you've got BPC. BPC, you can compete certainly for seed funding, but again, all those additional resources, feedback, experts, coaching, mentorship, pitching, those are all part of the BPC process, and they're all valuable. Whether or not you end up getting the majority of the seed funding, you can really be successful if you leverage those other resources. Following that, whether you're a finalist, a winner, a second place, or anything else, you should consider trying to get into the FAU Tech Runway, which is our new venture accelerator right on the edge of campus next to the airport. That is competitive. It's highly competitive, and it draws ventures from the community, about a third of the ventures, and it also draws from faculty spinouts, about another third, and then ideally a third of the ventures would be from students, but they've got to be in good shape. You've got to have that business model buttoned up. You've got to be like David and Viktor here. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to have some validation in hand before you apply there, because it is very competitive. But again, participating in the WAVE program, the boot camp, and the business plan competition prepares you to compete with faculty and to compete with the broader community and to compete for $15,000 or $7,500, depending on the year and the budgets and things like that. But it's a really great opportunity. Now, the way I laid that out was very sort of linear. In practice, that's not how it works. As David mentioned, right, he competed and did well in the business plan competition, but for whatever reason didn't end up in the Tech Runway or ready to commit to the Tech Runway necessarily that year. It's interesting. The same thing happened with Honor Lock, which now is a massive success. They were second place in the business plan competition. Then they took the boot camp. Then they reapplied to the Tech Runway. So sometimes that's a scenario. Some people skip the WAVE program, right? They say, I got a business idea. It doesn't really involve any new technology. It's just a great idea, but I got to get it figured out. So I'll go straight to the boot camp. That's fine, right? All these pieces you can kind of take and apply what's best suited for you. Certainly you can go through all these different phases the way we have it set up to be traversed, but at the same time, if you're beyond certain steps, you can try those. Maybe you do the WAVE program a few times, because the first time you did the research, but you were surprised by the outcome. Nobody was really interested in the technology. Maybe you do that again. So all these types of things are available to you at all times in the fall and in the spring, and the competitions on an annual basis. So you should feel free to take part in what's best suited for you at any time.
Okay, great. So Viktor, why don't you talk a little bit about where your business is now and where you see it developing over the next year or so?
So since we have gotten a second place in business plan competition, we have actually won another one at University of South Florida. It's called Dabbler Entrepreneurship competition. And then we were also admitted to compete as a finalist for Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University Launch Your Venture competition. So we're excited for that. We're not sure yet if it's going to be happening in September, as they have said. But in any regard, it's still a great opportunity. Embry-Riddle does aerospace, and that's right up our alley. It's sponsored by Horizon X, which is a venture financing arm. So we're excited to meet these people and talk to them as well. As of today, we are actively testing our platform. We're fixing the errors that our customers are sending to us, like, almost every day. And we are trying currently to onboard more launch customers, and then within a 3 to 4 month period, we would be going back to them and negotiating terms. The goal within the next year would be to enable various aerospace companies to take advantage of robotic processes automation. It's really important, especially in today's environment. Companies are not making a lot of money because of COVID, and they're burning through cash because they need to pay people or for services or for material or, just name the expenses. So the robotic processes automations comes in into simplifying the processes that exist in the first place, and then secondly, to automate those non-value added activities, which could be done by a computer. So within a year, we're looking to expand this for maintenance, repair, and overhaul facilities, and starting to tackling aircraft leasing companies that are encountering the same problems. And as we have been talking to them, they are just in need of that robotic process automation in order to survive and obviously to develop themselves going forward after this crisis will end.
Thank you. Okay, David, how about Life Metrics? Tell us where you are and maybe a 25-second elevator pitch on your product.
Sure. So Life Metrics right now is ending our beta program. We've been in beta for around 6 months, and we've really built out, from just the beginnings of our app to getting ready for launch in the coming month. And really excitingly, we're also working with FAU on a research study to validate our methodology and see, in the most scientific way possible, what effect using Life Metrics on a daily basis has on student well-being. And so for my elevator pitch, Life Metrics is an iOS app. It gives daily questions and psychological insights so that you can live your best life. And we're really excited. Over the next year, we're going to be launching our public iOS app, and we're going to be reaching out to other universities as well as FAU so that we can partner and so that students can get beneficial, mental health support through our app. And then the universities can also get real-time data on how students are doing in a very privacy-centric way, so that students aren't, feeling like their data is just being ripped apart and sold, in pieces to different entities, but that universities are just better able to target mental and physical well-being efforts to students, which is especially important, in the era of COVID going forward. So.
It's students, it seems, are a little bit more concerned about their privacy and the use of their data than they were even 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah,
not sure why that is, but Kevin, did you have any questions you'd like to ask or anything you'd like to say as we kind of wrap this up?
No, I would just say that right now is a really sort of an ideal time to investigate some of this stuff. I know there's been a lot of kind of uncertainty, which is always the case with entrepreneurship, but whenever there's kind of a massive external shock to our environment and our markets and our lifestyles, that also represents an opportunity. Some of the largest and most successful companies that you know today, and you know their names, like Airbnb and other massive companies were founded during our last recession. So I don't think that the business or economic landscape is necessarily bleak, right? It's rife with opportunity right now. So if you've got something in mind, and maybe maybe you were working in the hospitality industry and you've got a little bit more free time, unfortunately, it's a great idea and a great opportunity to explore something. And we really encourage you to leverage the resources we have here, virtual and maybe at some point in person, but the resources remain nonetheless. Mentorship is available, boot camp will be available, competitions will progress, and there's a lot of opportunity out there. So I just encourage anybody watching who has just a little bit of interest to get involved and get feedback and get started.
That's a great plan, great idea, I think.
If I
Go
could
ahead,
just build
David.
off
Jump
of
in.
what Kevin was saying, I just want to reiterate, right? I was a physics major in college. I had absolutely no business experience whatsoever, basically at the end of my college career. And it was really just through the resources at FAU that I was able to learn about all of that. And I was able to actually launch my venture now. So
That's great. And I
feel
think
free to
one of the
jump in.
things we need to do, and you guys help us with that too, and this helps us as well with the webinar, is that we want to get the word out about what we're doing here. We want to have more students come up and seek mentors. We have several new people we're working with to have them join our group of entrepreneurs in residence. We're trying to increase participation in the business plan competition, or if it turns out the business pitch competition, we would love more students to enter to bring their ideas forward. But also remember the boot camp, because there you can take the idea and you can kind of get your first feedback on it. You can refine it, you can test it, you can get out of the building and go out there and talk to customers and see if your perception of the value you're offering them is actually there, but by people who are actually going to pay money for your particular product or service. One good thing this fall about the boot camp is we have it on 2 different nights. And since it's virtual, if you're in Jupiter, you can certainly do the Boca one on Wednesday night. And if you're in Boca, you can certainly do the Jupiter one on Monday night. There's more information about that on the Adams Center website. Just Google FAU Adams Center. You can register there on the Adams Center for the boot camp and get more information on that website about all the things that we're doing. That includes, as Kevin mentioned, the Veterans Entrepreneurship Program kicking off for the 6th straight year, Family Business Initiative, where we give some advice to family firms, which is a huge growing sector of the economy. We've got activities coming on for Global Entrepreneurship Week, which is in November. And we may have a mini pitch competition for that to kind of kick off our business plan competition for the spring. The business plan competition, the entries, it starts in earnest after the first of the year. So be looking out for that to see how you can put your idea in, or your pitch, or your write-up of what you've done so far. And a variety of other activities that we engage in, including our Shrimp Tank podcast, Boca Raton Shrimp Tank. You'll see Kevin, myself, and some of the best and brightest entrepreneurs in South Florida, with our colleague Jason Hill doing interviews every week. That's up on the internet, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, a variety of other places. You really can't miss it if you look for it. Just like most things in entrepreneurship, you really can't miss them if you look for them. So that's about it for today. Anybody else have any concluding comments? Victor, did you want to say anything before we go?
I will definitely say that the crisis today is not a reason to go out and do something great. And there is a handful of resources available, even if they're virtual or someone actually willing to meet up with you. So to everybody who is out there and thinking, is this the right time? And the answer is the right time is now. So go out and do your best.
Bring your passion, and we will try to help you as best we can. I want to thank Tanya, Kelly, Kevin, David, Victor for coming out today and helping us with our webinar. And again, if you need any information about the Adams Center, just email me, kidwellr@fau.edu. I'm sure you can email Kevin. Kevin, give me your email.
Sure, that is KCOX24@fau.edu.
We'll be happy to talk to you whenever you'd like to come by. We'll set something up or we'll do it virtually, no matter whichever way you like. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.